Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Amy McKinnon. Amy is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which supplies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Amy McKinnon. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Amy McKinnon. And big shout out to past podcast guest Josh Turner for connecting me with Amy. His story is also amazing. So be sure to go back and check out his episode as well. But Amy is a nutritionist who has been living with type 1 diabetes for 18 years. And she's also a long distance runner. She specializes in working with people living with type 1, managing their nutrition and diabetes for optimal blood glucose control. She also works with clients with weight loss, improving athletic performance, and increasing overall health and well-being. And she's just doing so much positive work. So I'm excited to have her on to share her own personal wellness journey and just everything that she's working on. So Amy, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Look forward to our chat.
Yeah. And again, just thank you, Josh, for connecting us. I really appreciate it. He's amazing.
He is. His story is really inspirational. His podcast was great too. So everyone should have a
thank you. Yeah, and he's actually been on a few lately. So if you're listening, go on a Josh Turner binge and just go listen to them all because I'm sure they're all very, very great. But Amy. So we'll start off with your backstory. First off, where you're from, and what your health and wellness looked like at a younger age.
So I'm originally, as you can probably tell by my accent, I'm from Australia. I grew up in Sydney, where I was diagnosed when I was around 12 with type 1 diabetes. So that's kind of been part of my life since I can remember, and not in a negative way. It's kind of had a lot of positive effects, I guess, from my perspective. And then kind of fast forward a little bit, I have lived in New York when I was an adult. I worked there for a couple of years. Then I moved back to Australia short term for, I think, another couple of years. I moved back, and then actually March of this year, I moved to the Los Angeles area where I live now, hopefully for a little while. We'll see.
No, that's awesome. And so when you found out you were you had type 1, you said when you were 12?
Yes, that's correct.
So when you found that out, was that like a really hard transition? Because at 12, that's young, but it's old enough to where you've had a routine. You may or may not have been active in sports, and just being with your friends in general, that impacts your entire routine.
To be honest, I don't really remember a lot before I had type 1, and I don't know if that's because of my diagnosis, but I just remember when I was diagnosed, I was quite unwell. I didn't have to go into intensive care, which was good. They caught it kind of before it got to that stage. But I remember my parents giving me a lot of independence from the moment I was diagnosed, in the sense that they were really supportive, but they kind of said, you have to live with the disease, so we're going to let you manage it, which I'm really grateful looking back on that. Being a teenager, I guess, everyone, you want to fit in, so you don't want to test your blood or give your insulin in front of other people. I think that's normal. But I still did it, I would just like say go into the bathroom or go into my bedroom and then come out with my friends. So it was more trying to fit in, but at the same time I didn't like rebel in the sense that I was in denial about my diabetes. I always knew that I had it and it was something that I would live with, and I just took it day by day and just did what I felt I had to do, and kind of always made sure that I did test my bloods, give my insulin, and then at the same time tried to be a normal teenager.
Right. Yeah, no, I can't imagine this. Like, I mean, I think we take for granted just how like easy it is to like eat something, or like if you accidentally eat something bad, or like, it's without having to monitor it. I think everybody just takes that so much for granted. Whenever you were growing up, were you into running, or was that like something that came up later on in your life?
I wasn't into running specifically. In school, I did all the sports. I played tennis growing up, and in Australia, I think most children swim. So I did swimming growing up, and running is something that I definitely got into later in life. When I was like a young adult, I had a friend who was into running and encouraged me to like sign up to a couple of 10K or smaller local races. And that's when I really like started running on a consistent basis and actually enjoying running as a sport and getting into it more and more.
Yeah. Did you like it right away, or was it kind of just like, I'll stick to the shorter races? And because you've done so many like longer distances.
So originally, actually, my friend, I guess being a guy, he was a lot faster than me. So I didn't actually enjoy running with him because I was always felt like I was trying to keep up. I was out of breath, and, like it was just like a bit of a stressful situation internally in my mind. So I ended up just, after we did a race together, I ended up just continuing to run on my own. And I actually enjoyed that a lot more, like running my own pace, obviously building my fitness slowly. So I did start out doing shorter distances, and then my first half marathon was in Sydney, and then my second one was actually in 2013. I did the Nike Women's Half Marathon in San Francisco, and that kind of really got me into running, and I felt like, I enjoyed running 13 miles, and I thought, like, this is something I want to continue to do. And then I didn't run my first marathon until 2015, and then they always say once you do one marathon, you want to do more, and that happened to me.
That's funny. Well, what do you think was the difference with the Nike one? Do you think it was just the atmosphere, or just you just had more training, you knew what to expect?
Yeah, I definitely had more training. Like I focused on it a bit more seriously. I'm pretty sure I followed a training plan that I downloaded off the internet, and I really enjoyed, like, obviously running in San Francisco. It was beautiful scenery, so I think that helped. But I actually just enjoyed running and like pushing myself a little bit and trying. I'm pretty sure I just went over the 2-hour half marathon marks. I was trying to go for a 2-hour, so I felt like having a goal of like trying to run a certain time and like pushing my body, I like actually enjoyed that challenge a lot.
That's awesome. And before we get into, because you've done so many amazing races, but as far as the nutritional side of it, when did that start to change for you? Did it start to change after, like at that young age when you found out you had it, you started being more cautious about what you were putting into your body? Or like, when did you become more passionate about the nutrition side of things?
No, I wish I changed my eating habits when I was young, but I didn't. I was like a normal teenager or like a young adult. You'd go out with your friends, you'd drink alcohol, you'd eat French fries in the early hours of the morning, which was always a challenge. And I remember my diabetes educator back then would always say to me, like, if you drink less, you're going to probably eat healthier, or if you change your eating, you're going to have a better A1C. And I never obviously listened to her advice until my mid-20s, which is like I had watched a few documentaries, Forks Over Knives being one of them, and that really changed my perspective on what I was eating. And I wanted to be healthier, but I didn't really know what path to take. So I moved to New York in 2013, and I kind of in my head said to myself, this is what my opportunity to really change my diet, change my lifestyle. I'm starting afresh. And that's when I made that commitment and change, and I saw all the benefits obviously come out from that stage on.
Yeah. Did you ever have any like scarier experiences whenever you weren't really monitoring what you were eating? Like, did you ever have any bad like crashes or like passing out? Like, did that happen frequently, or were you pretty lucky to stay stable through a lot of that?
No, I was pretty lucky. I still, like, even though I say maybe wasn't managing my diabetes as well as I should have, I still checked my sugar levels. I still was aware of like if I was going to have a hypo or low blood sugar levels. So I thankfully didn't have that. When I was very young, like in my early teens, again, I did like have 2 diabetic seizures, but that was more like related to like exercise that I had like intense, like a tennis camp or something like that. So like when I was growing up, I had good control, not as good as I do now, but I never kind of abandoned it in the sense that I always was aware of what my sugar levels were, which I think kind of prevented any kind of negative episodes from happening.
Right. And I'm sure you have like just a crazy just body awareness now, like, right? Because I mean, I'm sure you can feel like if you're hypo or like, you know what I mean? Do you have like a sense, like, does it feel different if it's dropping and you kind of feel it coming on, like you feel sick or a headache, or like you can tell if something's about to happen, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm lucky in that sense. Some people, after they have type 1 diabetes for a long time, lose that awareness because the symptoms change or they lessen. But I do like the typical symptoms, and it's different for everyone. But it is like my vision kind of gets blurred, or it's hard to focus, and I lose concentration. So that's when I know, and like my energy levels drop. So that's when I generally know that my sugar levels are dropping. The only challenge that I sometimes have is like if any symptom I get of not feeling well, I just automatically relate it to my diabetes. So if I have a headache, I'm like, oh, maybe it's to do with my sugar level, when, sometimes everyone's going to get a headache occasionally, and it doesn't always have to do with my diabetes. But I'm pretty aware of in tune with my body, which is really beneficial.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And how was the plant-based transition for you? Whenever, that's a lot of changes, and obviously it affects your body in a lot of ways. So like, how was that transition whenever you decided to make that switch?
It was like one of the best decisions I've made. It just like really like my personality type, I guess, is I just change. Like if I'm passionate about something, I'll just do it overnight. So I pretty much from day 1 to day 2, I switched my diet totally to plant-based. And I think for me, I saw the benefits really quickly from doing that. Like I lost weight, I saw like a reduction in inflammation, which presumably came through in weight loss. My diabetes management improved dramatically. Like my A1C dropped below 6. Now it's like consistently at that level, which is really good. And I just felt like my energy levels improved. My running improved. So like I just saw all these like major improvements when I changed. And my diet has progressed. Like I think when a lot of people first go plant-based or vegan, they maybe eat like vegan burgers, still
Right.
eat fries. And I think because like you don't really, sometimes you think like, oh, what am I going to eat? And that's like what you can get in restaurants, and it's convenient. So I did that, and I have now, my diet's evolved dramatically since then. But even with eating those type of foods, I still saw such a good change in my overall health and diabetes.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Did you have a lot of pushbacks from people, or like people maybe that didn't understand, that was kind of scared? Because there's a lot of misconceptions with going plant-based if you have diabetes, because of kind of fearing fruit or fearing carbs, and things that can really affect your blood sugar. And and obviously I don't have type 1, and I don't have to, I don't deal with that. And I'm sure that's extremely scary to make that transition if you have all of those voices coming at you with different like things that are scary. So like, did you have people that were concerned or had questions that you had to kind of overcome?
My parents, just not related to my diabetes, but in general, didn't think eating a plant-based diet was healthy. And it took them about 2 years to admit to me that I was healthy.
I think that's like the norm. After 2 years, they know you're serious, and then, and then you're good.
Yeah, and like, she's not dead yet, so
yeah.
Okay, she's all right.
Amy is not deficient in protein. She will live.
Yeah. Exactly. I had a few people with relation to diabetes, especially low carb or keto advocates, try to challenge me on eating high carbohydrate, and they didn't believe that I could get an A1C below 6. Not that getting one, I was trying to prove those people, but I was trying to show as an example that yes, there's like other ways that you can eat and be healthy but still have good diabetes management. So I'm grateful in that sense that I've been able to achieve it not only for myself, but to show other people that you can have good control and you can still eat fruit, you can still eat rice, you can still eat beans and lentils and other carbohydrates that I think a lot of people with diabetes stay away from because of the concern about high sugar levels.
Right. Because there's so much fear around, like you said, carbs and fruit, and they can actually stabilize blood sugar very, very well if you're doing it right. I mean, obviously, if you're eating poorly and you're eating fruit, like, yeah, I mean, that's just you're adding on to bad stuff. But if the majority of it is whole food plant based and you're trying to stick away from the processed stuff, then all of those things can work for your body and not against you. It's just making it the majority of what you eat.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. Like I say, like people categorize carbs as like pastries that you get from the bakery, white bread, cake, and I say to them, I don't eat any of that. Like I don't eat those type of carbs. Like the carbs that I eat are generally like whole foods, brown rice, quinoa, fruit, potatoes, sweet potato, and it's like there's a difference like in the type of carbs. I'm not saying all carbohydrates are good. It's like healthy fats. It's like some fats are healthy, some fats are not. Right. So it's like trying to make the right choices. And I think also another thing which people struggle to understand is like I eat a low fat diet because I think a lot of fat and a lot of carbohydrates for anyone, whether you're diabetic or not, is going to cause your body to need or produce more insulin. So it's like, to me, if you want to eat high fat, then you generally have to eat low carbohydrate. If you want to eat more carbohydrates, then you have to reduce your fat intake. So it's trying to get the balance right so you can eat like a healthy diet. But unfortunately, you can't eat a lot of fat and a lot of carbohydrates at the same time unless you want to be taking a lot of insulin.
Right. And obviously, like you said, there's definitely a difference between good and bad fats. Like there's a difference between the fat you get from something that's super oily and sugary than there is you have an avocado or a couple of, pumpkin seeds. Like there's just such a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think some people either get confused by that or it's a very generalized, like carbohydrates is a very generalized category and same as fats, whereas you have to actually differentiate the good and the maybe less healthy options.
Right. How has it been since you went plant-based? Was it which was first? You went plant-based and then got into running, or you got into running and then introduced plant-based eating?
I did start running slightly, like a couple of months before I went plant-based, but I'd say like they happened pretty much at the same time.
Okay. So did you notice a difference with your training then, since you did have a little bit of delay in between those two? Like, did you notice a difference with recovery or just energy, or was it pretty much the same because it was so close?
No, I did notice. Like I remember before I moved to New York and training in Sydney, I did a half marathon and a few shorter races. And training for those races, like I'd go out for like a 3 mile, 5 mile run, and I would really struggle. And I'd come home and I'd be exhausted. And like you said, recovery is the biggest thing I noticed. Like I think in theory that I am a little bit faster and I can like run further, but that also comes with training. But I think recovery was the biggest thing I noticed with changing my diet. Like my recovery was better, quicker. I could do more exercise with less muscle soreness. Right. So I noticed that dramatic change.
No, that's awesome. And like I was talking to somebody the other day, and she was kind of wondering, like, because she does long distance and she's almost plant-based, like just right there, like just on the edge of it. And she was just like, she has questions with maybe what's the best way to, like, how it's going to affect it. Like, does she need to add a lot more calories, or like, what advice would you give somebody who is maybe not fully plant-based and they want to make that transition kind of mid-training? Is it mainly like a caloric thing, or do you recommend more of a certain type of food? Do you know what I mean?
I think focusing on like anti-inflammatory foods will make a difference. So like a lot of berries, they have high in antioxidants, stuff like ginger and turmeric. Eating enough calories also helps, because I think a lot of times plant-based athletes, especially when starting out, you're being plant-based, you're eating less calories generally than when you're not plant-based and you're eating animal products. So it's being aware, like eating foods that are like beans and rice and quinoa. So they're higher in calories, but they're also got a lot of benefits, and they've got protein to help with recovery. They've got the carbohydrates, a lot of fiber. So yeah, I think like anti-inflammatory foods, and like you said, making sure that you're eating enough calories as well.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. It just, I feel like a lot of people, especially who are active, that maybe switch to it, and that if they do feel tired, it's usually they're just not getting enough food in, just because you're used to eating a different way. And like, things that are high in oil and fats have a lot more calories, but you just have to eat more of the other stuff to kind of balance out. And it's not necessarily that you're doing the diet wrong. You just probably just have to eat more of what you're eating.
Yes, exactly. And I always tell like new clients who come on, especially men who don't particularly want to lose weight, but they want to change their diet to a plant-based diet. I'm like, you're going to lose weight initially. Like that's like your body's natural reaction. It's okay. You'll probably lose a few pounds, then your weight will plateau, then your weight will balance out. And it's just like being conscious of what you're eating and the amount of calories. And like if you're eating salads all the time, you're probably not going to get enough calories. You can obviously, eating salads is great, but you've got to mix it up with some more calorie dense as well as nutrient dense meals.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like, yeah, so like kind of where did it go from there? Because you made those changes, right? And you started doing a lot more races. Did that lead to you wanting to help people with nutrition right away? Or did you kind of dive into the racing world, and after experiencing that and helping other people, you decided to launch what you're doing now with Amy McKinnon Nutrition?
Yeah, so I think again, like it kind of happened in parallel. Like I saw all the changes and benefits that I was getting, and I had like a personal interest in nutrition. So I then decided to do just some study for myself and just to like improve my knowledge. And then I kind of was leading up to the New York Marathon in 2015, which was my first marathon. I was still living in New York at the time. And then I completed that. And then when I went back to Australia, I was like, okay, maybe I can use all my knowledge and experience to help other people. So again, I did some more study and then I was doing in Australia, I was working full time and doing my nutrition business kind of on the side in the spare time that I had, as well as training for some marathons.
Wow.
And then coming over to Los Angeles, I guess I kind of had the opportunity to do my business full time, which is awesome. So the journey kind of happened in parallel. Like I was training, I did the New York Marathon, and then I did the Sydney Marathon, another marathon in Australia called Melbourne. Then I did the Boston Marathon in 2016. So I kind of was doing all of this while I was trying to build up my nutrition business and study and knowledge. So it kind of like sounds chaotic, but it wasn't too bad. And it just kind of all happened together and kind of developed naturally. Like I feel like that's what happened.
That's awesome. Where, before we jump into what you're doing with your coaching, what was the biggest struggle for you going from a half marathon training to full marathon training? Or did it come pretty easy once you really started getting the momentum with it?
I think the biggest challenge is trying to, and I still struggle a little bit with this today, but transitioning to like longer distance. So the further you run, I guess you've got to consume more calories while you're running to fuel your body, but also like managing my diabetes. So knowing like how many calories I need to fuel my body, and then also trying to consume those calories and manage my sugar levels while I'm running. So that trying to get that balance is sometimes a challenge. And I think practicing in training what you're going to do for race day for me, and I think for a lot of other type 1 athletes, is essential. Like you can make mistakes during training, and that's okay, because you've got a buffer. Like if you have to cut your training run short, that's like not going to be too dramatic, but you don't want to have those challenges during a race. So I think trying to find that balance when you're doing longer distances and longer training runs was like the biggest challenge for me. And I guess I still deal with that today as well sometimes.
Right. Is that difficult sometimes during your long runs, just trying to manage your blood sugar levels? Or for the most part, does it do pretty well? Like, do you have to stop midway to like test, or how does that look for you?
Yeah, so now I'm pretty good on long runs. Like my sugar levels are pretty stable. They're pretty predictable. Like in fuel, I just use energy gels to fuel during those runs. So generally, if I can keep a steady pace, or I know what pace that I'm going to aim for a particular run, I now know how many calories to consume, and my sugar levels are generally stable. You always have a bad day here and there, but now it's like a lot more predictable.
Do you have like the that really cool like hardcore like monitor that just stays on you all the time and like sends it to your iPhone? I can't think of what that one's called right off.
Yeah, the continuous glucose monitor. I do. Yes, which is so beneficial. Like being able to just look at my phone and know my sugar levels makes such a difference. For my first marathon in New York, I was still using finger pricks. So during the race, I would prick my finger, like take a test strip out, my blood glucose monitor, and it was like juggling a lot of things. So yeah, that's so beneficial having a continuous glucose monitor.
I bet. Like, I mean, it looks amazing. I can't imagine how many people that device could potentially save. I mean, I think of like younger kids that maybe if they find out, even if you find out like at an older age, like, that's a whole new transition. Like, I can just see so many kids benefiting from having something like that and not having to like prick their finger while they're doing things. It's just like they can know right on the spot. And then if they have to do something, it kind of can track trends, right? Like it can kind of tell if something's going to happen as well.
Yeah, so it's so beneficial, like you said, for young people and for parents. Like you can get someone else. So my husband has my data, so he can look at his phone and he can see what my sugar level is.
That's awesome.
So I think for parents of children, that's really beneficial, especially because their activity level is so unpredictable. Like they're running around with their friends in the schoolyard. So it's like, yeah, I think not only for myself and adults, but I think for children, it's a game changer in managing their diabetes.
What do you tell somebody that maybe does have type 1 diabetes and they want to be active, they want to do long distance running, but they're almost scared because I mean that is a big change to the large body. You do have to have extra awareness to track everything. Like, what do you tell somebody that wants to be active that maybe they have some doubts or some fears?
I think the first thing is like when you start exercising, no matter what you do, your sugar levels are going to be variable because your body's not used to it. So starting off slowly, like you're not going to go from no running to a 10K race. Like that's not, you can, but it's going to be a lot more of a challenge. Like start off small and be consistent. Like the more consistent you run and you train, your body adapts really well to that and you get less fluctuations in your sugar levels. You're going to need less insulin generally overall. But those changes will come as you train more. And it's just like being consistent, monitoring your sugar levels, and anything's possible, like if you do those two things.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you're definitely walking the walk when it comes to that. Like I was reading like everything that you've done the last few years. I mean, it's crazy. Like, so if you guys listening, like, I mean, she's done 6 marathons. She's qualified for Boston Marathon twice. She did 40 half marathons in 2016. Like that's a lot of mileage.
It is. You get used to it. And then unfortunately, like you have a group of friends who also are like slightly competitive. So you see who's going to run the most mileage for the year. So I don't have like people who are helping me here. They're actually encouraging me to do slightly more crazy things, but it's all fun. Like it's enjoyable. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. So that's awesome.
Well, listen, I hope you're beating your friends in the half marathon for 2016 because 40 in 1 year that's so much.
I think I won that challenge. I think
that's amazing. And your next, you're doing the New York City Marathon? Is that November?
Yeah, so that's November 4th.
Nice.
I'm really excited to do that. It'll be the second time that I'm running it. It's like my favorite marathon.
How was the first one?
It was great. I had no expectations. Like I really didn't know what it would be like. I had no idea there'd be so many people on the street cheering you on. They basically closed down the city. It was just such an incredible experience. And I had no expectations of like what time I'd run. I'd done really great training blocks leading up. I was following a plan. And it was just like one of those days that went perfectly. My sugar levels were really good. I was able to eat correctly and fuel my run. It was just like probably like a dream marathon in terms of my diabetes management and how I ran. So it was, yeah, I absolutely loved it.
That's amazing. No, I love that. And do you have like a thing where people can like track you on race day?
You can. I'll probably post it on social media. Like there's like a tracking app that the New York Marathon releases, and then I think you just put in my name or my bib number, and you can track me on the day.
Awesome. No, I'll definitely do that. No, I'll post it on Instagram, whatever, on that day too, so people can keep an eye out for your progress. But yeah, that's awesome. And okay, so yeah, for your Amy McKinnon Nutrition, so you dove into that. You're doing coaching. So what can people expect to find with what you're doing with your coaching?
So I don't limit myself to who I can help. If anyone's looking for just like healthy tips, wants to change their diet, wants to change their lifestyle, that's great. Like I do like a lot of meal plans for clients. I do over the phone coaching. I do some face-to-face coaching if people are local in the Los Angeles area. But what I really enjoy doing is like other type 1 diabetics, helping them really like get control of their diabetes, see the benefits of eating healthier and improving their nutrition. And I work with a few endurance athletes as well, I think like a lot of athletes think they're burning a lot of calories so they can eat whatever food they want, and they don't necessarily understand the benefits to them in recovery and performance when they're eating a lot more healthier diet. So I like to work with athletes as well, because obviously I have that personal connection. So yeah, it's just really about trying to help people understand the benefits of eating well and how that can have such a positive impact on your life.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm sure it's just so rewarding getting to watch people transform their health and their life, especially the type 1 clients that you see.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I really love about it. Like I say to my husband, like, that's what I really enjoy. Like, it makes me happy when I see clients improving their health and the changes and benefits that they get.
No, that's amazing. And yeah, no, Amy, what is, is there anything that you are working on in the future that you just want to put out there and share, or just continue to train, continue to work with your clients and put amazing content out there?
Yeah, I don't really have anything like big coming up, except I'm doing like the New York Marathon. I'm doing Boston Marathon next year. So that's more from a personal running level. And then in terms of nutrition, I'm just trying to continue. Obviously, I moved over here to California in March. So I'm just trying to build my base here in Los Angeles and hopefully help as many people as I can improve their nutrition.
That's awesome. And yeah, and in that area, you have no shortage of plant-based options. So you're in a pretty great spot.
I am. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, no, so Amy, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with everything that you're working on, keep up with your training and your races. Just what is the best way for people to follow you?
Yeah, so Instagram and Facebook, both are Amy McKinnon Nutrition. So pretty straightforward. And I include like a lot of running there, photos, health tips. My website's the same, amymckinnonnutrition.com. And people email me as well. It's just very simple, amy@amymckinnonnutrition.com.
Perfect. And yeah, just Amy, just closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's been your biggest takeaway through your own wellness journey so far. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
So my one piece of advice is eating healthy can really change your life. It can have such a positive impact and make your life so much more enriching. So I think eating more vegetables and fruit doesn't sound exciting, but it really will have such a positive impact.
Definitely. That's amazing. Amy, I really loved having you. I'm excited to keep up with all of the work that you're doing, and just thank you for all that you do. And thank you for taking time to come on here. I really loved having you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Casey. I really appreciate it. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Amy. She's doing so much positive work, so be sure to go give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drcaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Amy's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Amy, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.